Let me repeat, occupation, this illegal occupation has to end, must end. Supremacist ideologies must be defeated. And the vision of two states living side by side on the pre-1967 lines and in peace and security must be realized. Mr. President, in Gaza today, the fate of over 2 million people is at stake. The future of our region is at stake. The future of our international law-based order is at stake. Failure is not an option. Let me repeat, failure is not an option. Failure to stop a genocide is not an option. Failure to achieve freedom and peace is not an option. Failure to uphold the rule of international law and end impunity is not an option. We call on all peoples to rise to the requirements of this historical moment, to save lives, to save rights, and to save peace. And I thank you very much, Mr. President, my colleagues in the General Assembly.
For more on this, let's bring in Osama Nazzal. He joins us live from occupied West Bank. Nazzal is a Palestinian affairs analyst. Nazzal, great to have you here with us on TRT World. You heard the Palestinian ambassador there at the United Nations. He has been speaking about the plight of the Palestinian people for over 14 months at that very forum. What is different this time around?
I don't see any difference between day one of start of the Israeli genocidal campaign against Palestinians in Gaza and today. The same murder attacks are happening, the same procedures to starve the Palestinians in Gaza to death is taking place. Demolition of all features of life in Gaza is taking place around the clock. So I don't see any difference. On the contrary, Israel is escalating its aggression and increasing its crimes and using different forms of crimes. As your reporter mentioned, that they employ collaborators in order to loot the humanitarian aid in Gaza and make sure that all the people, the 2 million Palestinians in Gaza, are going to starve to death. This is the situation that the Palestinians have since the start of the Zionist Israeli occupation genocide campaign.
And Osama, I think it's not just about starving the Palestinians to death. I think what the Israeli government is trying to do is also maintain its ground presence in Gaza, because I think this is one of the biggest stumbling blocks when it comes to reaching a ceasefire agreement. Israel wants to maintain its troops' presence in Gaza. What do you think would be its impact on a longer-term solution?
Yeah, this is the mentality and this is the mindset of the Israeli occupation regime, to colonize and to occupy more land. And their occupation, mainly of the northern part of Gaza, comes within this context of the Zionism movement mentality. And today Israel is fully dominated by the extremist rightist parties and the Zionism religious parties, who call for the occupation of all Gaza and the replacing of the Palestinian citizens with Jewish colonizers coming from Europe and around the world. So Israel is determined to occupy, in particular, the northern part of Gaza and establish its military outpost and maybe its colonial settlements. Especially, we heard many times statements by the Israeli Minister of Home Security, Benny Gvir, and of Finance, Smotrich, calling for preparing for building settlements in Gaza and to have the model of the West Bank in Gaza, which means building settlements and carrying out military raids by the Israeli army into any part of Gaza, just like what happens here in the occupied West Bank, as settlements are expanding and Israeli military raids are happening day and night into the different Palestinian cities and villages.
And Osama, what do you think are the prospects of a ceasefire at this stage?
Look, without really pressure from the international community, and I have my reservation over this concept, international community, and without really pressure from the Arab and the Islamic world on Israel, Israel is not going to stop its genocidal campaign. Especially yesterday, we heard the statement by the American President-elect Donald Trump, who threatened that if the Israeli captives are not released, the whole region will fall into hell, forgetting that Israel holds more than 10,000 Palestinian prisoners facing the worst forms of torture every day. And he forgot that Israel killed more than 44,000 Palestinians in Gaza in the matter of 14 months. So Israel now feeling that it has more support from the American administration, the upcoming American administration, and it has support from many European governments, and of course, enjoying the silence by the Arab and the Islamic world. All these factors give Israel the momentum to refuse any ceasefire, and if it accepts a ceasefire, it will accept it on the condition that it maintains its occupation, if not of all of the Gaza Strip, I think of large parts of this small Palestinian enclave.
Osama Nazzal, fascinating insights as always. Thanks very much for joining me here on TRT World.